Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am your Ice Dragon, RayronVR. And man, it has seemed like a while since I produced a video on this channel, and I do apologize. There's a lot of things going on in life that I'm trying to get settled, and we're pretty much to that point. I'm so happy for all the projects that are coming up. I've got a lot of news to catch up with you guys, and I tell you what, this news that we're going to be talking about today is something I did not foresee coming. Never imagined that. I thought CPKC was going to be the last merger that we would be talking about on this channel. That'll be a couple years before, or even decades before we see any other mergers, but long and behold, here we are. So let's go ahead and talk about my favorite Class 1, Union Pacific. We've got so much news that leaked and kind of just was on a firestorm this week that Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern confirmed that they are talks of merging, creating the first coast-to-coast railroad. Wow, what in the world, what timeline are we living in that we're going to have potentially some more Class 1s merge? All right, so Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern confirmed that they are in advanced merger talks that will create a single U.S. railroad with service stretching from the east to the west, which is insane to think about because we'll talk about some of the issues that a lot of people have been bringing up about these potential mergers. So the AP reported last week the companies were discussed of tie-up, but neither company acknowledged until Tuesday morning. The potential merger will combine the largest and smallest country's 6 major freight railroads. Independent railroad analyst Tom Hatch said the disclosure by the railroad suggests that negotiations are further along than previously thought. We, the people, will interpret out of that is that they have, one way or the other, figured out what the benefits are, Hatch said, adding to those benefits such as efficiency will be passed along to its customers. That will be the key for regulatory approval under the Surface Transportation Board and enhanced competition clause. So that's something that we're definitely going to be talking about here in a moment when it comes to this potential merge. Now, with the announcement of this, long and behold, BNSF and CSX were also in the news that they may potentially look into merging as well. So crazy to think about it. So the odds that the Berkshire Hathaway makes a bid for CSX have risen in the past 24 hours. Union Pacific said earlier Tuesday that it is in advanced discussions with Norfolk Southern. A potential merger would create a transcontinental railroad. So CEO Henrich stated on the company's earnings conference call late Wednesday that the company is absolutely focused on delivering shareholder value, and the company is open to doing anything that can help us achieve that objective. Berkshire owns BNSF Railroad to decide if it wants to purchase CSX, which would create a second transcontinental railroad. So unbelievable news that we're seeing these Class 1s start to merge, that we could be on the verge of 2 massive railroads, what I call a mega Class 1s at this point, because we're actually going to have railroads going from east to west coast, which I never thought would be possible. But long and behold, you guys know what happened with CPKC. We thought this merger was not going to happen because it created the first, northern hemisphere type of railroad that we'd never seen before. So I would argue this is kind of a monopoly, but again, that's up for debate. And speaking about that, that is kind of the biggest kind of hurdle for these Class 1 railroads. Is it going to be considered a monopoly, or what I would likely call it a duopoly? So when you got a monopoly, it's basically you have one company, one entity that's in control of some sort of service. So we look at the definitions here: exclusive ownership through legal privilege, command of supply, or concerted action, exclusive possession or control, commodity controlled by one party, or one that has a monopoly. Now, what I would argue is that we're facing potentially a duopoly, which means that you're down to 2 particular giants that can basically control the market. So they can influence, they can control, similar to like 2 political powers, or an oligopoly limited to 2 sellers. So that's something that I would think is more realistic if we have these potential mergers. But then here's kind of the caveat. So a party wants to say that yes, this is potentially a duopoly. The Surface Transportation Board will not allow it. Some may even argue that if UP and Norfolk Southern were to merge, that would create a monopoly. I don't necessarily agree it's a monopoly. It's more of this duopoly. but will the Surface Transportation Board kind of look at it that way when it comes to the service provided? Because we have to think about, what do these railroads provide? What service are they providing? They're providing a service that is known as freight shipping. Now, a little bit of research, you can actually dive into the marketplace when it comes to freight shipments. And it kind of surprised me that rail, you would think they would have a lot more value and weight per tons when it comes to its transportation of freight. It has a decent size, but nothing compared to the trucks. I mean, just look at this. This was, again, back in, looks like 2024 looks like, but trucks just dominated the United States value and weight when it comes to freight shipping. And if we look at some of these other ones, we've got water, which is basically our cargo ships. We've got air, that's almost got the same value. It doesn't have necessarily the same weight. Rail's got it dominated for sure. And then multiple modes, pipelines, and some others. But this is where I really want to focus, is that even if these railways were to combine, is it still technically a monopoly or duopoly when it comes to the business of freight shipping? Probably not. And I would argue that this is probably one of the stronger points into why I think these mergers may actually happen, because it's not technically a duopoly monopoly when you look at just how much the trucking industry actually has when it comes to freight shipments. So there could be a very strong case that with these mergers, you could potentially see the efficiency increase, especially when it comes under one particular corporation. So it's going to be very interesting to see if these mergers are actually going to happen. And I know in the comments I'll probably get the question, well, Rayron, what do you think the color scheme is going to be for Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern, considering that you're a big UP fanboy? And my honest opinion, you got to look at Union Pacific's history when it comes to their heritage fleets. They've always kept the Union Pacific name. They always kept the paint scheme. I'm under the school of thought that Union Pacific is going to keep their paint scheme. To me, it just makes sense to keep it, because you're going from West Coast to East Coast. It's unionized. It's all in one. I think they're going to keep it to UP and keep the yellow paint scheme. So that's my thoughts on it. Sorry, Norfolk Southern fans. I just think that's what's going to happen. But will it merge? I think it will. It'll be quite interesting, because if you were to ask me this, if the CPKC merger didn't happen, I would have said no. But the fact that the CPKC merger happened, I think we will see these so-called quote-unquote mega class ones start to form with BNSF, CSX, Union Pacific, and Norfolk Southern. I could be wrong. Again, that's just me speculating, but we live in very interesting times when it comes to model railroading and just railroading and rail fanning in general. So very interesting times. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.